Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for T&D, we have the I'm Just a Woman with a Master's Degree That Loves Tacos mug, because why not? It's a great mug, had it for a long time, and it's a staple for the show, really. And inside of it, we have some of the Shadowfell Slumber from D&T. This one, again, is the evening type one. I have not gotten around to ordering more of this yet. I need to. More being the other kinds that they have. I think they have 6 or 8 total different varieties, and I want to have some more. So, I need to find myself some more of it. But that's not really what we're here to talk about, but I do recommend you checking them out. What we're here to talk about is actually a problem that my campaign group is going through right now, and a problem that many groups, I feel like, in the world go through. Honestly, one that potentially the group that I'm running for is going to run into in the future, one that another group I'm running for is running into right now. And it is, what do you do when you have no rogue? How do you rogue with no rogue? So let's go ahead and let's just sort of get talking about what it is that you need to do if you don't have a rogue. So naturally, when I'm saying this, when I'm posing this question to you, it is asking really, how do you get around the fact that a rogue fills a very, very specific, very, very important role in an adventuring party, in being somebody who's very good at the traditional rogue, at least, somebody who's very good at looking for traps, somebody who's very good at disarming traps, somebody who's good at opening doors, somebody who's good at sneaking around, scouting places out. The quintessential necessary frontman for an adventuring party. Somebody who will go and put themselves in the line of fire in order to go ahead and sneak out, figure something out, suss something out for reporting back to the group and being able to go from there. The group that I am playing in had a rogue. Unfortunately, the player needed to take a little bit of a break, so we are going rogueless right now, and recently we had a game where it was really highlighted as our druid attempted to break in to quite literally a food stand and steal something. And she ended up having to use, I want to say it's 3 second level spells to do so, instead of a couple of simple die rolls. Another group that I have just started does not have a rogue in it. Not really a problem necessarily, but definitely going to be interesting to see how they tackle that. And then the other group that I run for is still coming up on the end of their campaign. It's been a long road to get here. We don't get to play as much as we really should. Everybody's very busy. And so looking forward to next campaign, they might not have a rogue with them because, everybody's going to play a different character. So what do we do when there is nobody to fill that role? So we're going to talk about sort of like a couple of the big solutions that you could have with your other party members, so that maybe there is a little bit more hope for you here. So first, and maybe the most important for D&D parties in general, it is the getting through doors, the picking the locks, that kind of thing, the opening of the natural portal from one room to another. How do you get through a door without a rogue? Obviously, if the door is not locked, you don't really have an issue, so don't worry about it so much there. But if the door is in fact locked, there are a few different solutions that you can have. There are obviously a million more than this. Creative juices flow, and you can come up with something, I'm sure. But some of the most straightforward ones for not having a rogue that can just go ahead and unlock the door for you. There is a spell called Knock. Knock unlocks a door with a loud knocking sound, and it is, I believe, a first level spell available to most arcane casters, and it is a very good solution. However, if you don't have a wizard in the party who maybe has Knock, who, if you've got a sorcerer or something who doesn't want to have to spend one of their very precious few learned spells on Knock, then maybe you have them pick up something that is a little bit more universal, like a Dispel Magic. Dispel Magic being something that would be really good for disarming magical traps, if that is the case in there. But it is also just useful as a utility all around, so it's not a bad thing to pack with you pretty much ever, but, it's still not always the best when you're trying to get through doors. So really the solution here that doesn't involve having to use magic is just have whoever your strength-based character, presuming you've got one, is make sure they got some athletics going for them. Barbarian, let him kick down the door. Fighter, let him shoulder that thing to the ground. Because your other option, if you are running out of options, really, is to have, I don't know, your druid go in and cast shape metal, or heat metal, 3 times, trying to separate something, and just not really having it work for you. And then mending to try and fix the lock afterwards. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. So those are really the 3 best sort of options for you to just kind of have. And Dispel Magic is kind of like a iffy option. It's great for Arcane Lock, if there's an Arcane Lock to get through. But Knock and High Athletics are really your 2 best friends for getting through a door if you don't have somebody who can just go ahead and pick the lock. All that said, other people can have proficiency with Thieves' tools. They can go ahead and make some lockpicking checks. They just won't have the expertise that rogues have, which is really sort of something that puts them on another level for that kind of thing. The next thing is sneaking, specifically trying to stealth through places. This one is interesting because it's honestly kind of tough. The biggest solution, really, the most straightforward solution, is to have a ranger, druid, or trickery domain cleric who has Pass Without a Trace. Give yourself that baseline of stealth so that the worst you can do is an 11. But Pass Without a Trace is going to be one of your best friends there, just because it'll make stealth a little bit easier. And if you do have a rogue, it'll make them ungodly. If you have seen most actual plays, there's a rogue affected by Pass Without a Trace at some point, and you get to see them have those 30s, 40s numbers, and it's insane. It's absolutely ludicrous to see, because it's possible, is really the thing, well within the realm of reason. So Pass Without a Trace is going to be your best friend there. The other option here really is to go a different route entirely, and to pick up things like Disguise Self and Seeming, to make yourself blend in as opposed to make yourself stick to the shadows. This is going to really sort of change the way that you approach the game, but, it is something that is worthwhile doing. It's worth being able to just sort of walk your way through if you're just really bad at stealth. If your entire party has a +2 or lower on their stealth checks, it might be worth trying to blend in as opposed to trying to sneak through, just because of the way that, it goes. And then we come down to the scouting section, the other real big thing that, rogues are very good at. This one is tough, because most of the things that involve scouting, like a scrying spell or something like that, are much higher level. However, Find Familiar is going to be pretty much your best friend here. And the fact that you can get Find Familiar using a feat means that it is accessible to pretty much any character in the game. And the drawback of this one is that you really have to rely on that Familiar's abilities. And they're not very good usually, because they're usually like a cat or a dog or like a frog. They're just not great. They're not always great. And so while it is pretty much your best bet, given that it will fill the role of a scout, it's still tough, because you are going to be utilizing your familiar's stats. And if your familiar gets bamfed out for one reason or another, you are suddenly stuck scoutless again, back to where you were from the get-go of this whole problem that you're having anyway. So that's kind of addressing the 3 big areas there: the getting through locks and doors, the sneaking, and the scouting. Really, at a more macro meta level, your best bet is going to be to have a bard of some sort in your group, somebody who will also be able to pick up expertise, not just proficiency, so that they have the ability to get expertise in something that they might be really good at. Additionally, past that, it is going to be very beneficial to you to have somebody with some sort of a criminal background, where they may or may not already pick up proficiency in something like Thieves' tools to get you through those doors, as well as potentially having picked up Thieves' Cant somewhere along the way. most DMs will just sort of like flex the language that you pick up or proficiency that you pick up, letting you have Thieves' Cant instead because it makes more sense for the criminal background than some of the other stuff that you might get. And honestly, your best bet overall, past all of the things that I've mentioned here so far, past everything that I have said, your best bet for dealing with life without a rogue or a rogue-like person in your party is to just accept that you are going to be playing a different sort of game. Because the reality is that while there are patches and fixes for some of the random things that a rogue is going to be able to do, it's just, it won't be the same. You're not going to have that designated person who is going to be exceptionally good at those specific things, because there's nobody that does it like a rogue. There's a reason that a rogue is such an integral part of so many teams, and why so many people really love the rogue too. One of the biggest draws about the rogue is that you always feel useful, even if you're not doing stellar. You are always feeling like you are very good at the thing you are doing. Plus, it is one of those archetypes that so many people love, and it's sort of rare to find a group where you don't have some kind of rogue-ish character. But if you don't have a rogue build in your group, you are going to have to play a different kind of D&D as opposed to if you do have one, because the reality is nobody else can do it quite the same. While you might have a bard that has that maxed out dexterity and has an expertise in stealth, are they going to be the ones that knock open doors with, you know, their lockpicks and everything? If they are, then you are sort of funneling that bard into being a rogue anyway, even though they cast some more spells. And so life is going to be a little bit more difficult, and that's okay. But you have to accept that you are not going to have that traditional dungeon crawly kind of role filled for you. Don't get me wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. I am really enjoying both of the games where there is presently not a rogue. I recognize that many things would probably be easier if we did have one in either one of those games, but we have not run into any major issue other than that one instance in the fruit stand, or the honey stand, where suddenly we are confronted with the fact that none of us are good at scouting, none of us are good at sneaking, and none of us are good at breaking and entering. So, whoops. So those are just some ideas of some things you can do without rogues in your group to, you know, try and fill that role. But the reality is that it is going to be tough too, because they are kind of one of the 4 core pillars, I feel like, of an adventuring party. You've got your healer, you've got your tank, you've got your magic user, and you've got your rogue. Those are kind of your like four core pillar columns, whatever you want to call it. They're sort of the 4 go-tos, and everything else past that is sort of flavor. And there are always ways to get around not having one of those in magic items, in the way the DM builds the world for you. It's never going to be the end of the world if you don't have one or any of those, but it is good to note that it is one of those core party functions, and not having it is going to make your life a little bit harder, and it's going to be a different kind of game than your super traditional Dungeons & Dragons game. So, just some random thoughts that I was having for no particular reason. Just thought it was worth sharing. Anyway, getting on to the shows that we have today. It's Monday, which means we have our long list today. And in no particular order, we have The Paper Dungeon, Chromatic Dice, Beyond the Realms, Unprepared Casters, Greetings Adventurers, Bards of New York, Hapless Heroes, Our Own Adventures, Cast Party, 3 Black Halflings, Hello from the Magic Tavern, King Leo D&D, Anti-Heroes Anonymous, The Tabletop Tavern, Top Throne, and The League of Lady Adventures. Go check them out, guys, because again, someday somebody's going to say something to me about me sending you there, and I'm going to think that it's very funny. But until then, I'm going to keep asking you guys to mention it when you go check them out, because they are making some really great content, and it's a smaller community than you might think sometimes. But that is everything I have to talk to you guys about today. So thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check out the link in the episode description. Yeah, that's everything. So with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.